Hello guys, it's me, Butterfly Spirit 314. So guys, I just came back from my pole dancing class today, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about my experience. For those of you who chose to jump in and see what I've been up to. So today I went to pole dancing. When I woke up this morning, I was pretty tired. I didn't sleep very well. I had like a nightmare or something like that. And so like I literally was like super tired. So when I got to my pole dancing class, um, I actually was like still tired. Like you know like how you feel like if you're not completely awake, and you're just like still feel like, your mind is still kind of at home, but you're somewhere else type of thing, and you're like doing stuff on autopilot. Yeah, that's what I was doing. So, anyway, got to pole class. I was super tired. I decided that what I would do is that I decided I would change out of the clothes that I was in and then change into some fresh clothes and stuff. And normally, when I get to my pole dancing class, I typically I will change clothes, and the reason that I do that is because I don't know, it's just like kind of a ritual I kind of have when it comes to pole dancing or chair dancing or whatever. I always change clothes. So I always change out of the clothes that I come to class in and change into new, fresh clothes and stuff. It's just like a thing that I do when it comes to my dance classes. So I was tired and I forced myself to change clothes. I was gonna pole dance the way I on, but I was like, nah. So I actually still have on the clothes that I pole danced in right now. So pretty much right now, out of my pole dancing class. So clothes wise, I have on t-shirt and short shorts. So that's what I got on right now. That's what I pole danced in. So it's the clothes I changed into. So, and the reason why I wear shorts and pole dancing is because my body has to have contact with the pole. So, especially my legs. So, my arms and legs, they have to be in contact with the pole. So, they actually have to, because the thing in pole class is that like your inner legs and stuff have to have contact with the pole, because the goal is that in pole dancing we have to stick to the pole. This is why they tell us not to wear like any kind of lotions or moisturizer or anything like that, because we have to go into class so we can stick to the pole. Okay, I've heard of people going to pole class and like they'll have on lotion and stuff, but the issue with that is that those lotions and moisturizers can do damage to the actual pole that we use. And different pole studios actually have different types of poles. So the studio I go to, they have an X pole, and the pole that I dance on is a stainless steel pole. So that's that really silvery pole and stuff like that. You guys see it's like reflecting. At the other studio that I go to, where the videos are not very clear or whatever, when I do chair dancing and all that, that pole, I believe, is a different metal, which I'm not really used to. I prefer more the stainless steel pole. That's just like what my body really likes. Um, but the other studio, they have a different brand of pole and stuff. But X pole, that's that expert level. But either way, the poles are different, and stuff. And the thing about poles is that I know there are some people who they'll have an at-home pole. I don't have an at-home pole. I just focus on practicing on professional poles, because the poles that people buy, some of those things like the ones on Amazon or like at like a sex store or whatever, those are not professional grade poles. So there are people who think, oh, I'll just go get a cheap $100 pole, and that is going to be I'm just going to rely on that kind of pole, right? But the poles you get at a sex shop, those are not meant for professional pole dancing. There are girls who have bought those poles and they've set them up in their house, and those poles have actually fell while they were trying to pole dance on them. And so those are not reliable. And the reason I know this is because I've watched videos on like poles to buy and stuff from actual pole dance instructors that have talked about where to actually buy poles. Okay. And so that's how I know. Me, I prefer to practice on poles that are actually at a studio that are actually meant for to support a person's body weight. So the pole that I practice on in class, it can accommodate, you know, hundreds of pounds. And so those poles are meant to hold my body weight. You go get a pole at like a Hustler Hollywood or something like that, or some other sex shop, those poles are not meant to hold body weight. They're not meant to do that. They may be meant for you to maybe stand next to, but they're not meant for that. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, what about those poles that I see at the club, or, you know, that I see at bars? What about those poles? I don't know much about those poles. When girls dance on poles at like clubs or whatever, somebody was talking about this before my class started. There was this girl who said she went to this class and or this competition, and basically it was basically these girls supposed to be pole dancing, but there were these girls that were basically just basically pussy popping on poles, like the poles, but it wasn't actually real pole dancing, you know. So yeah, that wasn't real. It wasn't. So it's probably just some girls doing some makeshift stuff. But the stuff that I do in class that you guys see me doing in my videos, these are things that I've actually have learned. And I'm actually learning. So this is the stuff I do is real pole dancing. I have been in class with some girls. There were two girls that came to a class I was in last year. And the girls that were in the class with me, they were two girls that were actually strippers. And they came to learn how to pole dance. And that's kind of funny, right? You'd be like, well, if these girls are strippers, how is it they don't know how to pole dance? Like, you would think these girls know. But, and I haven't seen those two girls after the class. I have not. But I think it was great that they came, because I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to learn some new skills, which I think is completely fine. I think it's completely okay. And I think that maybe they were fine with the things that they were doing, you know, at the club that they worked at. So maybe that was just their thing, you know? So, and that's okay, you know. I used to think that, you know, girls at clubs, I used to think, oh, well, they're pole dancing. That's why I used to think. But wasn't until I actually took a class and took classes that I realized that in pole dancing, pole dancers do different moves. And when pole dancers actually do different moves and stuff, pole dancers, it's not like they just get up on the pole and start doing stuff. There are different types of movements that pole dancers do. And for pole dancers, each pole dancer, they have their own style, they have their own flow, they have their own way that they walk around the pole. Okay. And so there's really a lot that goes into pole dancing. And in order for pole dancers to become really flexible and stuff, pole dancers, you know, some of them take ballet, some of them take chair dance, some of them are involved in yoga or Pilates and stuff. Some of them are involved in weightlifting, you know, because pole dancers have to learn how to hold their body weight. That is a big thing. Pole dancers, if you don't take anything away from this, pole dancers have to know how to hold their body weight. They have to. If they don't know how to hold their body weight, they're not going to be able to do things that are called like inverting. Inverting is where girls, they basically do pole dance tricks upside down. And in order to do that, they have to have the core strength to do it. They have to have the arm strength to do it. They have to have the leg strength to do it. So, you know, pole dancing itself is something that's progressive. It's not something where somebody can learn to pole dance in 30 days. I know on YouTube, there are videos where people talk about, girls say, I learned to pole dance in 30 days, or I learned how to do it in 45 days. Well, it takes people different amounts of time to learn to pole dance. So there's a studio that I go to for chair dancing where I do my chair dancing at. At that particular studio, They have 8 different levels of pole dancing. 8 different levels, okay? Actually, I'm gonna say 9 because they have an introduction to pole, and then they have a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, and level 8, okay? So when people get to the more elite level, they may be more of like the level 7, the level maybe 6 through probably 8 is going to be at that expert elite level, okay? And so pole dancing does have levels. Different studios have different levels, you know. And I'm glad that for me, I started off with the introduction to pole dancing because I feel like that is something that's helping me, you know. So I'm gonna get back into. I know I went into other areas, but yeah. So today's class, my goal in today's class was to. One thing I didn't like about my class today was I didn't like the fact that my teacher didn't warm up with us. She expected us to do the warm up by ourselves and stuff. And I like when we do the warm up with her, you know. And so I had to kind of rack my brain and think about the like warm up movements and all that she has us do and stuff. And I was able to remember a lot more than I thought I was. So I was able to do that. Let's see. So I did my warm up, and then the teacher said, "Okay, guys, now that you're warmed up," because and you guys may say, "Well, why do you guys do a warm up?" Because for any type of dance that you do, it is important to warm up the body. Because if you don't warm up your body, you are more prone to injury. So that's why we warm up in pole dance. It will be the same thing in ballet. You warm up in ballet before you start doing stuff. You warm up in chair dance before you start doing stuff. You warm up in pole before you start doing stuff. In fact, in the introduction to heels class that I took, we warmed up for like 20 minutes. That's the longest workout I ever kind of did for a warm up before we started practicing on wearing heels, like and basically moving around and walking in heels and stuff, and as it pertains to pole dancing. Okay, so it's essential that we warm up, and every single class I warm up. So that's the thing. So after we did the warm up, then I had to do what's called warming up the pole. So then we do moves to warm up the pole. Why? Because if the pole is cold, then we may not be able to stick to it as well. So we have to warm up the pole. So we warm up ourselves, then we warm up the pole by doing pole movements on the actual pole. Okay. Then we got to the part where we do our warm up. So the warm up I did. So our teacher has a routine that we have to go through, and we have to do this routine on both sides. I can tell you, I did not like doing pole dancing on my left side. I don't like that because that's my weaker side. I love doing stuff on my right side. Like, I love my right side. But in pole dancing, as it's been told to me multiple times, I have to train both sides. If I do not train both sides, then what's going to happen is that I may learn a lot of stuff on my right side, which is my dominant side. But then later on down my pole journey, if I don't train things on the left side, when I'm practicing more advanced stuff, I'm going to be standing there questioning like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And how do I do it on the right but not the left? You know, and when it comes to it, the body likes symmetry. It likes to do things on both sides. So that's what I'm learning to do, is to do things on both sides of the body so that my muscles are balanced out. So yeah. So I did the routine. Before I started doing the routine, last class, I asked my teacher if she could do the routine for me and I can record her. So I actually recorded my teacher doing the routine for warm up that we do, because for the life of me, I've been trying to do it and somehow I would forget something. Okay. And so I asked her if I can record her doing the routine. And as she did the routine, she actually called out the different pole moves that we're doing throughout the routine. So as she's doing the routine, she's telling me in the video, hey, this is this move, this is that move, okay? And that was helpful, okay? And I have that video on my phone right now. So in today's class, what I was doing is that I watched my teacher so I watched the recording of my teacher doing the routine, okay? And I watched it. And actually watching my teacher do the routine on that video actually helped me because I'm the type of person, I'm visual, so I have to learn by seeing people do things multiple times over. So I actually had to do that, okay? So, um, so I did start doing the routine because my teacher was like, hey, what are you doing? I start doing the routine, you know. She doesn't want me to give up at it because I've been coming to class. So she wants me to keep at it. So I started doing the routine. And I did record myself doing the routine and stuff. And my teacher actually did, even though I watched it on the video, she did coach me through it and everything she saw I struggled with. And she helped me with those areas. Okay. Now, some of those things are still fuzzy for me. But even though some of those things are fuzzy, my teacher still helped me with it, which I appreciate. And I got to the point where I was actually able to do the routine, not only on the right side, but the left side. And so I walked out of class today, like knowing the routine better than what I did, which I'm super happy about. I also took the time in class today after doing the warm up. I actually took the time to work on one particular move. So my point is that I'm building my own sort of library in my head of pole dance moves so that I can recall those moves later on down the line. So I'm practicing beginner moves. So every single class, what I've been doing, started last class, what I'm doing now is practicing one singular pole move every class, and then at the class after, like doing another move, and in the next class another move and stuff. And I'm doing beginner moves. Here's why I'm even doing that. The reason I'm doing that is because I was in class, and I will say I had no idea why the hell my teacher was having us do this warm up. It was hard. I was having a hard time doing it. Other girls were just getting it. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? But on the drive home one day, coming from pole class, what I realized was that my teacher is trying to get us used to stringing pole moves together so we can do full on pole routines. And that's why she's having us do the warm up, because it helps us to learn how to do choreography. So eventually we'll be able to do our own choreography eventually. And so I learned that. And then another day, when I was in class, I was seeing there's a couple of girls that come to my class. They were actually in my class today. And I noticed that there are two girls in my class that are basically, they want to like speed through and do different, like more and more advanced stuff. And even though they're doing advanced stuff, and I'm looking at them like, should I be doing advanced stuff? But one of the things I realized is that it's important for me to learn to do all the beginner moves first and then progress to other things. And I learned this last night. And what I learned last night, I was watching a pole instructor on YouTube. And this instructor said, in order to learn for somebody to invert or go upside down, what a person has to learn to do, and a lot of beginners make this mistake. You have a lot of beginners who will try to basically rush into doing advanced moves. Okay, so they'll try to rush it. But the way to invert, the way to do that is it's about doing the invert or the upside down move, which people call the chopper or the Aisha. In order to do that, what a person has to do is that they have to gradually do it. So they move from one part of the move to the next part to the next part. Okay. A person is not just supposed to jump on the pole and then go upside down and stuff like that. That's not how the move is supposed to be done. It's supposed to be done gradually where it flows. First, their body will turn upside down, and then their legs will be positioned a certain way, and then they'll extend their legs out. That's how they would do an invert. The girls in my class, they're kind of flying through moves and stuff, wanting to do the invert, wanting to do things like the Superman or butterfly and other stuff. And they're still beginners. And the thing for me that I'm doing is that, like I was saying before, I'm doing what's called a library of moves for myself, where I'm getting my body used to doing all the beginner moves. And in one of my classes, I saw one of the girls and they needed to know how to do a front hook. And they didn't even know how to do a front hook, but yet they're wanting to do more advanced stuff, right? And so the thing is that if they're going to go on to do advanced stuff, in order to do the advanced stuff, you have to have the beginner moves down first before you go on to the more intermediate and advanced stuff. You know, if you just rush to that and you try to jump into doing something, you're not going to be able to do the advanced stuff. And a lot of the advanced movements are based off of those beginner movements. So beginner movements being things like when I do a fireman or a pirouette, when I do things like that, when I do like I'm going to be working on doing I know how to do a back hook, um, and just doing those like beginner things. Okay, and there's like 10, I think there's like 10 different beginner moves that I have to know how to do. Okay, although I do the routine in class, which is fine, but I'm letting myself learn all the beginner moves. Okay, I know how to do the back hook. There's another beginner move I don't know how to do, which is the front hook. So that's something that I have to learn to do as well. So I'm letting my body get used to doing all the beginner moves first by doing one new move at a time in class, and then letting myself build upon those. And the reason is, another reason, is because when I went to a freestyle pole class at another studio and we were asked to do certain moves, I realized that I only had a couple of moves that I knew how to do. And so that got me thinking, like, maybe I need to start practicing different beginner moves. And then, therefore, when I go to a freestyle class, instead of me just doing one or two moves and stuff, I can know how to do more than just the two moves I can recall. Okay. So, in today's class, I practiced on doing the dip spin. On YouTube, I have a video of myself doing a dip spin. So, I practiced doing that last class. I did some of that this class. And then in this class in particular, I practiced doing a pirouette. So I do pirouettes in class, but I practiced doing a pirouette um, and adding on to that based off of how another instructor did it. And I didn't know for the pirouette, there was actually different types of pirouettes, and I didn't know that. So I practiced the pirouette. So I did, dip spin first, then pirouette. And then I combined the two into doing a dip spin and then a pirouette after doing the warm up in class. And my teacher even helped me with the pirouette because she saw what I was trying to do. And she was like, oh no, she's like, you have to turn this way and do this and stuff. And so my teacher actually helped me with that, which was super helpful. And I do have videos of the practice I was doing in class. So I'm actually going to be posting those to YouTube so you guys can actually see me in class, because it's one thing to talk about pole dancing, but it's another thing for you guys to actually see me doing pole dancing. So that's a whole nother thing. I will say, I forgot to cool down after class. I actually did. I forgot to do that. So I'm going to try to cool myself down and stuff because I didn't do that after class. And one thing I forgot to do in class that I learned yesterday and this morning was I learned that I forgot to point my toes. I have to learn how to point my toes. In ballet, when I was doing ballet, I pointed my toes. But in pole dancing, I haven't been pointing my toes. And I will tell you, the girls I was talking about in class where I was saying, like, they're just kind of trying to rush to, like, jump from move to move and stuff like that and stuff and things. And I'm still a beginner. I don't know how to climb right now, but I realize that's okay. For some people, it takes them a while to learn to climb the pole. I'm having fun just doing things without climbing. Eventually, I will be able to climb. Once I know how to climb, I'll be called a pole kitten, which and basically, being a pole kitten means that you're somebody that you can actually climb the pole, you can clean the pole, like the higher levels of the pole and stuff. So I'll be able to do that, like in terms of like going to like if I'm like wanting to like volunteer at a pole show or something like that, then I'll be able to do that. So that'll be something I will be able to do. So far, every day, well, almost every day, I've been doing yoga, and I've been doing yoga because I realized that yoga is what helps. Oh my gosh, I'm pointing my toes right now. I'm pointing my toes. I said in my pole class I was supposed to point my toes, and here I am right now pointing my toes. Yeah, I have to work on making sure I point my toes when I do my pole dance moves because pointing the toes make you look a lot better than having like flat feet and stuff. And some of the girls in class, I noticed that pointing toes is not emphasized, so I have to make sure I point my toes so I can make my pole dance moves look a lot, make them look a bit better and stuff. Make them look, even if I don't do the move right, if I point my toes, that makes it's gonna make it look better. So yeah, I mean, I'm on my way. And also with doing yoga, I noticed that it helped me in chair dance as well, because it's helping me like stretch my muscles and help myself become more flexible than I otherwise would be and stuff. And in order to become flexible, I've been told you have to stretch every day in order to become more flexible. Because if you don't stretch, you can't become flexible. So I was doing yoga last night, and I was doing yoga, and there was this move during yoga that I was doing where we had to stretch our legs out, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how? What the hell?" Like, I was completely lost. But yeah, needless to say, I've been doing yoga every day to get better with pole, not only pole but chair dancing and also twerking and stuff too. So as long as I'm moving my body and having fun, that's the most important thing. And in pole class, that's the thing. It's about having fun. It's not about being super serious. And I've learned that in a lot of my videos, a lot of times what I do is like I'll be so focused on the move, I don't smile and show I'm enjoying myself when I really am having fun, you know, and stuff. And I will say, when girls in my class, they're able to do different moves and stuff, I think it's cool. I just think they're kind of rushing it. But you know what? One thing I'm happy about is I'm taking my time and being gradual in my approach to pole dancing and building that. And actually, I did a little bit of freestyle. I did some freestyle in class, which was pretty fun after I did the dip spin and pirouette. So, yeah, so I did a little freestyle, so I might post those videos and all that. So, anyway, guys, I just literally wanted to share with you guys like what I've been doing. And another thing is I'm trying to become more consistent in pole because in order to get better at pole, it's important to do pole at least once a week. Now there are some people who go overboard and try to do pole 7 days a week, but doing it 7 days a week may not necessarily guarantee progress. And there are some people who want to fly through it, but I'm just slowing down and enjoying the process of pole. Um, Specifically because I want to get better at it. And I know gradually learning it allows my body to get better at it and for me to make things look more effortless and fluid, and stuff. Last night I was watching this video of this lady, and this lady was an elite level pole dancer. And she was dancing to Michael Jackson's song Dirty Diana. I had never heard that song before. But this lady was elite level pole dancer, and oh my gosh, my jaw dropped when I saw how that lady was so fluid and so strong in her pole choreography. Like, I was shocked. I'm like, damn. Like, that's elite level pole dance. Damn, like, I want to do stuff like that. So anyway, I really feel like when it comes down to it that although I've been doing pole for a year and some months, I still want to lay the foundation of those beginner moves so that, so that eventually when I move on to more intermediate moves, then I can have a more solid foundation. It's like a tree, you know, it's important to, you have a seed and you have to, have quality soil that that seed is in, and then you have to have the water, you have to have the space in order to build a foundation. And that's what I'm doing with pole dance as well. I did want to do an intro to pole series, but the studio that I wanted to do this at, every time that happens, they always seem to fill up, and I'm just like, man, I wish I could have did it, but they had one on like a Thursday, and I was like at like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, I can't go to that class. So right now, I'm doing my own kind of way of building up myself in pole dance moves and stuff and things. And yeah, eventually when there's an intro to pole series at the other studio, I will kind of jump in and take it and stuff. But in the meantime, I'm just letting myself kind of gradually go through pole dance and stuff and having fun instead of like being ultra serious about it. Being like, like I don't want to do something and it not be fun. And that's something I forgot about pole dance is that no matter what kind of dance it is so important that it be fun. That is like essential. Because if you're dancing, you're not having fun, what's the point? So anyway, that's basically what my experience was like today. I knew I threw in some other stuff in there, but yeah, my goal is to definitely get more flexible, definitely get stronger in things as I go along and stuff, and actually like continue to learn different types of dance, like twerking and chair dancing and pole. It's just about having movement. And I learned that there's such thing as movement hours. So that's hours where you're moving your body. As long as you have those movement hours, even if you're not on the pole, you're still strengthening your body and keeping it going and stuff, even when not in pole and stuff. So that's pretty much something I've been doing. I guess I've been getting maybe 3 movement hours, I guess, a week because I've been doing pole dance and chair dancing, and then I've also been doing yoga as well. So that's been working too. And my doctor was actually right. He's like, if you do stretching and stuff, it's your body is not going to be as sore at the end of the week if you stretch every day. And so that's what I've been doing. And in chair dance, I noticed I was not as like sore or anything because I've been doing yoga every day, which has been helping. So anyway, that's everything that's been going on so far. I am going to be posting some videos for my pole class, so I can't wait for you guys to see it. I haven't seen the videos either. Usually after class, I'll like watch the videos, but and stuff, but I haven't done that yet. So after I watch the videos and decide which ones I'm going to post, then I will let you guys see them on my YouTube channel, Butterfly Spirit 314. Anyway, guys, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.